Now, as some of you might know, Zelda Majora's Mask was created in an extremely short amount of time and ended up using a lot of elements from the previous game. This started off with some big plans of creating a big enough world filled with things to do so that a cycle of 7 days would be possible while still having enough content. Now, in the end, they made this game in a year. A lot of things were cut, and it all went from 7 to 3 days. However, they did show off some things they were working on, mostly in the form of screenshots, and some things in the game became quite different. So let's compare these early alpha and beta pictures to what we actually saw in the final game. First off, a shot that was taken in Termina Field over at the frozen mountain region where the Gorons live. This is one of the original 3 early Majora's Mask screenshots, and it's quite different from the final. There are trees instead of rock mushrooms, grass on the ramp, a dodgy ice texture, and no proper map. There are also some other weird things you can see when looking at the screen layout and icons. Just look at the clock, for example. The design is quite different, and instead of a day, there's a H. And when looking at the bow, you can see that it's still the fairy bow icon from Ocarina of Time. This shot is clearly quite different from what it would look like in the final version, as you can see. Now for the next one. In this shot, we can see a lot of things that didn't make it in the end, or were altered heavily.
We can see the room before the mini-boss in Great Bay Temple, and as you can see, there is an Igor there as your challenge before the bigger showdown. But in the final version, it has 2 choo-choos, probably because this enemy was a bit too much for most players, thanks to the boss they would face right after. They moved the Igor to the Stone Tower Temple, and in the end it looked extremely different, mostly making its eye a lot bigger. For our next screenshot, we're actually looking at 2, so this time it's screenshots, and they don't really show off something extremely special. The first one could be the view you used to get at the end of a day in Clocktown, but sadly enough, we have no idea what that one could have been used for. The next one was also taken in Clocktown. This is in East Clocktown to be more precise. How do we know? Well, this cutscene is actually still in the game and can theoretically be accessed by wrong warping. It doesn't have an ending event, so it results in the game locking up, but it's still nice to see. Our next one was also taken in Clocktown, but when it comes to selected items, there is something interesting that can be explained. Link has the Adult Link mask equipped. Now, this item was eventually replaced with a Fierce Deity mask and probably served a similar feature in terms of making Link an adult. However, since we just mentioned the different look in Clocktown, we will look at a part that used to be quite different. In this screenshot of the north part of the town, you can see that the ramp in the background is going up the opposite side. So it seems like the layout of the place was quite different, since that wasn't there in the final. But there is more, because in this one, you can see that there is a fence behind Tingle, which was later removed. We have no idea why that was there though, and what its use was, and we will probably never know. But let's move away from Clocktown a bit and look at some minor things found within the world itself that were different in the early build. For example, a lot of the things and places you can go to at Milk Road, like the place where the Gorman brothers are. First, this screenshot, where you can see that both brothers are standing next to the fence instead of just one. And the reason for that is quite logical as soon as you see the next shot, because the shed, the thing that the other brother stands under in the final version, isn't there in the early build. That's most likely why they were standing there together. But there is even more, because it seems like the story between them and Romani used to be different. Because one of the Gorman bros is carrying a bucket back there, most likely milking one of the cows in the barn there, showing that at some point they worked for or helped Cremia in some way, which was changed into rivalry in the final version.
We also found one showing quite a different looking pirate's fortress. We can see water, which would lead you to believe that this is the outer part of the fortress, but there are also guards there, so all of this is a bit vague. But it was certainly different, and probably underwent a facelift at some point. Now to finish this video off, we will look at 2 screenshots that are for sure the most surprising. First, this room filled with Style Children, which was most likely found in the Stone Tower Temple, since its design is similar, or it could have been Ikana Castle. Obviously, this place doesn't exist at all in the final game, but maybe this is where you used to go when you were looking for their captain, although we don't know this for sure. And for the other one, we will be looking at one of the most iconic shots of the entire game. Skull Kid wearing Majora's Mask looking at a huge moon, However, the face on it is completely missing. Back in the days of the beta, it had no face at all, but luckily enough, it was later added, because we were quite big fans of it, thanks to the impact it had on players. But as you can see, a lot used to be different. Some things changed because they actually wanted it different, while others had to be cut, thanks to the limited time they had, which kind of makes us sad. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to like this video, subscribe and hit the bell button, and watch more videos if you want. If you like this video, let us know in the comments and like it, because if it does well, we will do many more of them.